Welcome back to our Manchester mayoral debate, a special edition of Close Up, and we're going to get right back into the questions to the candidates with the issue of education. There is a looming cut in state funding to Manchester schools. Mayor Ruhe, what's your plan to either deal with this cut or try to change it?
Sure. So this is what happened earlier this year when I was working with the governor. There was a cut that was proposed in the state budget that would have cost Manchester schools $12.5 million. And the governor and I were very forceful on this, that we did not want to see any cuts to the Manchester School District. And ultimately, we were successful in that effort. I think this is where it takes the sort of relationship building, making sure that we are pressing our case that cuts to Manchester education from the state level are not going to be acceptable, and continuing to press that case, but also on the Board of School Committee, working with the boss, working with the Board of Mayor and Aldermen to ensure that we are getting our students in our classrooms exactly what they need, supporting our teachers, supporting our administration, and supporting our children.
Committeewoman Spillers, how do you plan to either deal with this cut or avoid it altogether?
Well, this wouldn't be such a concern if we didn't have a cut of $8.5 million earlier this year. And this cut is, at the state level, is still on the table for next year. So we need to work closely with our state reps and our state legislatures to ensure that this does not come to fruition. I know that there are some LSRs out there that are going to address this issue, and I will work very closely with those folks to ensure that they get passed so that our schools and our students have the basic resources that they need.
Now, Committeewoman Spillers, you said you've gotten into this race because, in your words, Mayor Ruhe, quote, cut funding to schools. He has said that's a misrepresentation of the budget process, that he simply proposed a budget less than what the district and schools proposed, which was ultimately not a cut. Make your argument. This issue that inspired you to run, why do you contend this was a cut?
Yeah. In February, when the district had proposed their budget, it was a tax cap compliant budget. This wasn't anything excessive. This was a budget that keeps the doors open and the lights on. We had taken a vote on that. It was a unanimous vote, the mayor included, and then a month later, he proposed his own with a $9.5 million cut. No words to the board or anyone about that. And we were all blindsided, and we were flabbergasted by that. It is a cut because this is what would have allowed us to continue the progress that we have made as a city, and now we are seeing staff stretched further. We are seeing our resources stretched further, and we've seen cuts in areas that typically we wouldn't like to see. Our middle school expansion for athletics was not able to move forward this year because of these cuts.
Mayor Ruhe, how do you respond to the contention this is a cut?
Sure. I mean, it is verifiably false to classify this as a cut. In the 2 years that I've been mayor, the Manchester School District has seen $11 million more in funding. That's just a fact. $11 million more in funding. In the last 3 fiscal years, the Manchester School District has received $46 million more in funding. When the job of mayor is a global one, so we have to make sure that we are balancing the needs of the school district, balancing the needs of the city, and then ultimately, most importantly, making sure that our taxpayers are being protected as well. We've spent the last 15 minutes talking about the cost of living is far too high. I agree. We have to make sure that we are coming as far under the tax cap as possible without cutting essential services, because you need more dollars in your pocket. So that's why we need to balance the needs of the school district, the city side, and of course, most importantly, the taxpayer. But to suggest that this is a cut is simply inaccurate.
Let's go down to an issue that touches on both national and state level implications and issues. Now, if federal immigration and customs enforcement wants to launch a major roundup of illegal immigrants in Manchester, and ICE officials come to City Hall and they ask for the help of Manchester police in assisting, Mayor Ruhe, how would you respond?
Sure. So the city of Manchester is not a sanctuary city, and we have a relationship with immigration, customs, and enforcement. We have, with the police department, we have worked with them in the past, and we would continue to do so going into the future.
Committeewoman Spillers, how would you respond to a request for help from ICE like this?
Well, I would say Manchester Public Police have enough on their hands with the city itself and should have their priority be, first and foremost, the safety of city residents.
Okay, let's turn to another topic that is newer for this election. That is the YDC property that the state really wants to sell. It needs the money. Still very early in this process. But Committeewoman Spillers, how would you approach this sale as mayor?
I think the first thing we need is to obtain the right to first refusal. That's a pretty big oversight on our part, and we need to ensure that the city has a strong voice at the table. This is around 150 acres of land right in our city that's going to affect a huge neighborhood in Ward 1. So in anything that I do, that would be the first step.
Mayor Rue, how would you approach in the next term the sale of the YDC property?
Well, my first step is talking to the residents of Ward 1. What are the kinds of things that you are looking for in this property? Because you as an abutter, this is going to directly impact you. I also want to make sure that we are working with the governor's office and working with the executive council, the two entities that ultimately make the determination as to what is going to go there. So gathering input from our residents up in Ward 1 and around the city, as we did last year with our zoning rewrite town halls, and then pressing the case in Concord that this is the most appropriate use of this property.
Let's turn now to the Mill Yard, and what is the next step the city can take to maximize the opportunity around the Advanced Regenerative Manufacturing Institute, or ARMI, in the Mill Yard? Mayor Rue, this question to you first.
Sure. So as I talk to the businesses that have been setting up shop there in Dean Kamen, as this has continued to explode in our Mill Yard, two items that continue to come up are workforce development and workforce housing. So I think moving forward with the zoning rewrite and bringing more housing into the city so that people can live and work here and not have to commute into the city, but also we need to build the workforce of the future. So that means we have to work with our community colleges, our college system, into our high schools. And, you know, as I continuously hear from Dean Kamen, that we have to get even further below that into the elementary school level and the middle school level to spark that interest in this kind of work that is really going to set Manchester's future up for a great deal of time. You know, we've talked about this, that this project is a continuation of who we have always been as a city. We lead the world. At one point it was textiles, and now it's regenerative medicine, and I want to help lead that effort.
Next, this question to you, Committeewoman Spillers. What is the best way to maximize the opportunity around ARMI in the Mill Yard?
Well, I agree that we need to focus on workforce development and housing. You know, getting down into the elementary school level would be a lot easier if we had that $8.5 million. People at the chamber, people at ARMI supported the tax cap budget that the district had put forward. They came out to Board of Mayor and Alderman meetings to speak in support of it, and it's a shame that it didn't go through and that it didn't have the same sort of influence as we would have all liked to see. In terms of housing, I would ensure that our 79E process is being used with fidelity so that the housing that is coming up in Manchester is truly affordable. No one can afford $2,000 and $3,000 rents a month.
Speaking of affordability, and we've talked a lot about that today, but it's a top issue. You know, recent studies show a growing number of working class Americans can no longer afford a car payment. Mayor Rue, does Manchester need to increase what it spends on public transportation to ensure the workforce can make it to work?
Well, from last budget to this budget, we did increase the allocation for the MTA. We have to ensure that the folks that are in need of transportation have that opportunity to do so. You know, I actually had the opportunity last year to ride on the bus from City Hall down to Walmart, and I work closely with our department head that's in charge of that as well. I think public transportation, particularly in a growing city, is an important aspect that we have addressed through the budget process.
And same question to you, Committeewoman Spillers.
Yeah, thank you. I've also ridden the bus down to school board meetings because at one point in time, me and my husband only had one vehicle. And we absolutely need to ensure that this is available for individuals to use. I would look at scheduling, I would look at pricing to ensure that we are having the most effective routes throughout the city. But in addition to that, we need to also look at things like bike lanes for folks who may prefer to cycle or for whom the schedule may not work and they would prefer that sort of mode of transportation. Bike lanes can also slow down the traffic in the city, which is another major concern of our residents.
Okay, as we wrap up with our last question here, this is I want you to think big, even though, you know, economic times could be tough. First to you, Committeewoman Spillers, what would your dream development project be for Manchester? 30 seconds.
My dream development project for Manchester. So I think it's already moving through. I would love to see our schools renovated. I think our Beach Street Elementary School is going to be an amazing 21st century learning environment, and I am so excited that we were able to push the land transfer through so that that could come to fruition. I'd like to see it continue to expand on that so that our students and our economy continue to thrive in the city.
Mayor Rue, same to you. What is your dream development project for the Queen City? 30 seconds.
Sure. So I think the possibilities are endless at the YDC, and I think when we look at the long term for the city, that is the last big parcel of land that we have in the city, and making sure that we get that right, whether it's some form of housing, whether it's affordable housing in there or single family housing, whether it's some form of small level mixed use. I think that property is going to really set up the city for success in the future from a tax revenue standpoint, from an opportunity to get to the river and be able to enjoy that. That was one of the things we talked about in the master plan. So I'm a incredibly excited about the progress that we've made on that and what we can do with it in the future.